no longer fit into these jeans. They're too big. Well, hello, Shiny Crafty People. It's Tim Totten here, and welcome back to the channel. Yeah, I do have a pair of jeans that I don't wear anymore because they're too big. Isn't that a lovely problem? So I want to figure out something to make with them, and I decided that today I would make a fabric bowl, tray, something, right? I picked a really cool lining fabric. I think it looks really kind of cool. Almost looks like a bit of a bandana. Ooh, that'd be a smart idea. I should do that next time. But either way, I decided to make this out of a pair, just part of the leg of this pair of jeans, and I want to show you how to do it today. Now, before we go down to the cutting table and we walk through this fun project, I want to tell you, yes, I'm in a slightly different place than normal. If you're a normal viewer of mine, if you're one of my Shiny Crafty people, you'll know that we, in fact, normally work out of my workshop, and I have moved my space. This is now in my office, and I've sort of created a similar corner, but I don't know yet where all this stuff needs to go. I've got some sewing machines up above. I have, fabric bins. I've got stuff hanging. I still have to figure out where it's all gonna go. But while I get that figured out and you watch this first video in my new space, and we'll make this cute fabric bowl out of recycled denim blue jeans. So if I opened up these jeans, they would get at the most about 16 inches. So I could do a 16-inch by 16-inch piece on this leg. So that's what I'll do. I'll go ahead and cut off like 9 inches here. And now this gives us a piece that's not real huge. In fact, I might want a bigger piece than that. That's about 16 by, I didn't do it right. You see what I did wrong? I didn't measure a big enough piece. So I'm gonna do that again. And remember, I need 16 by 16. So I actually need to go up 16 inches on here. 16 or 17. I need to go a lot more on this. Well, there we go. That's gonna work a lot better. Don't worry though, I will use that other piece for something else. And maybe I'll just cut right along this seam here, finding my scissors, and do that. Cut just right along this seam through here. And in fact, I could just maybe even seam rip it and get a little bit more material. Oh, look at that. At the bottom, it's not gonna come apart so easily, but I can just cut through that at the bottom. I'm gonna probably end up losing this strip along the bottom here. You could certainly go iron this out flatter if you wanted, but I've gotten a piece now that's about 17 by almost 17 this way as well. So I like that line that's gonna be on it. And now I gotta decide how tall I want my box to be. I want this to be a relatively shallow box. So if I was trying to make this exactly like a cube, I would split this into thirds, 5 inches, 5 inches, 5 inches, so to speak, and just have a 5-inch square in the middle, but that would be a pretty tall sides. So if I go to 3-inch on each side, I'm gonna use a piece of chalk to mark this. If I started on this side, and then planned for a 3-inch part side that went up, and then all the way down to the other side at 8 and 11, that gives me 9 inches in between. But I also gotta leave myself some room to turn over edges. So maybe I need to go 3.5 inches on each side, which leaves me with an 8-inch center piece with, yeah, I think that's gonna work. So I will mark a line straight across, maybe somewhere toward the middle, measure the 8-inch mark there, and bring off of it my line going all the way over. That's my center line, going all the way over. And then I can take my other measurements off of that. That measurement was 16 inches. So now if I put this in the middle at 8, measure off, I'm gonna put my 8-inch mark right along the line there, and that gives me all of my other marks, and I can come in and continue to mark those off. Same thing at the top, put the 8-inch mark on there. Oh, I got just enough to do that with all of these extra pieces. Now, one of the secrets will be, it doesn't quite matter whether I can get 8 inches all the way out to here, because I'm going to cut corners out. So let me spin this around and do the same thing. Put my 8-inch mark here. Now what I've got to recognize is that I'm not going to get it all the way out to this point. But again, that's not a problem because, and I may have to come off of this 8-inch mark that I talked about. We'll see in a moment. We shall see in just a minute whether that's the case. I might have to come back to more like 7.5. I'm going to do 7.5 because I think it'll fit better. So this is where it really just fits the materials that you have. So I'm going to do a 15-inch square rather than a 16-inch square. And to get that, I will keep marking this. Now, it's going to change my other square as well. It's going to change the width this way also. So I will actually come through and mark that in just a minute a little bit differently. So I'm doing a 7.5 inch. Now the way I'm going to mark that differently is I'm going to come in I'm actually going to go from this side, measure 15 inches, get my 15-inch mark in there. Same thing at the top. So basically you want to find a 15-inch square if you're doing this. Now it'll depend on the jeans that you use, because the jeans I'm using are a men's 36 by 30, and they might be different for what you're doing. You might be using a much smaller pair of jeans. So you'll just eventually need to figure out what size square you want it to be. And the best way to do that is figure out what size you have available, the biggest size that you have available, and then you can break down from there. I'm gonna go ahead and cut along all of those yellow lines that I did with my chalk. Now it'd be a lot easier to do my standard lining cotton fabric, because I'm just going to cut a 15-inch square out of that. I'm not quite sure where we got down here on the 15-inch square, but all that's cut out specifically. My next step is to figure out what size I'm going to cut out of the corners, and I decided 3.5 inches was going to be cut out of each corner. I could take my ruler here and get to my 0 point. That's here on the ruler. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could get to the 0 point, go up to 3.5 inches and over to 3.5 inches. And if I put those marks on the corner, I get the amount that I want to cut off. I get that piece to cut off. And then I would do that on all 4 corners. Now for this particular piece of fabric, you may have noticed that I didn't quite get my 15 inches marked here properly. So I'm going to go and double check. So now I'm going to do the same thing out of my lining fabric. And in fact, I'm just going to take this and put it right on top and cut it out. Right, now that we've done that, we're gonna go to the sewing machine, and these are each gonna be very easily done. We're just going to fold over and stitch right down those corners on all 4 of them on both fabrics. Let's go to the sewing machine. So here we are at the machine, and I can use just a guide if I want or not. I still like this being kind of rustic, so I'm just gonna take my guide off of the machine. And I'm setting a relatively just normal stitch length. I'm not doing anything too crazy. I'm just gonna line up those at the corners and stitch those on. So now our next step is going to be to turn one of these right side out and the other one leave it inside out. And so we can just flip the lining one, and I will set it down into this basket. Right down into here, and just line up your corners. And you'll line up the corners all the way around. You could pin them if you wanted to, but I know I'm just going to go from seam to seam, and I'll just watch as I go to make sure that they line up. Now when I get to this seam, I'm going to make sure that the one seam is going one direction and the other is going the other, or I could open them each up and nest them into each other that way. Then I just go to the next seam and get ready for that one, and then just pull them together and stitch. Now I will need to leave a section open so I can turn this thing inside out. So I will leave a section where I started here. I'll leave a small section open so I can turn it inside out. And if you've guessed that means that we're going to top stitch this later, then you are correct. So I've sewn all the way around there, and now I've left this opening that I can turn it inside out. Here's the opening, where I can turn it right side out. Now you may want to, my machine is threaded with white fabric. You could go in and rethread this with yellow or gold thread so that when you top stitch this on the denim, it would feel like the way denim is normally done. Denim normally a lot of times has that gold stitching through it. This denim definitely does. Depends on the denim you're using. You might have denim with black stitching or white stitching, but you'll see this denim has gold stitching through it. And I will look in my stash real quick to see if I have any gold or yellow thread. And if so, I will definitely use that because I think it would look nicer. All right, so now I've birthed that correct side out. And what I'm gonna do is just push it in and fold this top edge over. Now you could leave a nice little turn like that. How pretty would that be using the thing? And that could be very pretty. Or you could fold it completely and just keep it inside. I kind of like that at the top. It's gonna mean that it's not exactly flat in the inside because it won't be as tall as it needs to be. Like the lining fabric doesn't go down as far, but I kind of like the feel of that. So I could have added 1/4 of an inch to the lining fabric size when I cut it. The sides could be taller, but I don't know, I kind of like that. So I think I'm gonna leave it that way. So what I'll do is I'll pull the fabric up and just fold right over. You can naturally feel the denim in here is kind of stiff and holding it up. So I'll just fold it right over to the top of the denim. Now where it matters is where that hole is that I left in here to turn it. I gotta find that. So where that goes, that's right here. That denim will stick up, like I said, will stick up, and the other will go over it. And so now I just need to make sure that my stitch that I put on here goes through the edge of the fabric. So I will do that. I'm gonna start at a side seam. Now this is where it would actually be beneficial to use maybe a matching green color fabric. And so since I'm not doing that, or a thread, since I'm not doing that, I'm doing the white, I don't think it'll be as noticeable, but that would be something you might want to do. I'm just running it right along the edge of this seam. Now this basket may be a little large. Maybe the size of it, of the base is a little big, and we should have used some stabilizer, but I kind of like a floppy basket sometimes. To me, it's nice to have a basket you can just throw stuff in, and when you're not using it, it just sort of flattens down and sticks out of the way. I'm going to trim my threads here. And there we get that nice basket that fits. Let me show it to you a little bit more close up. So here's that basket. Quite large actually, and you'll see because I didn't make the lining fabric any taller, by folding that 1/4 inch edge over, I actually lost a little bit in the basket. Now on the inside kind of suspends a little bit, but I love the look of that as it goes around. It becomes a real cute basket. If you wanted to do this on all of the baskets, I would suggest just add a 1/4 inch to each edge as it goes out. So in other words, if this was 15 inch, cut a 15.5 inch, cut a 15.5 inch square, and then increase your squares on the corner that you cut out by another 1/4 inch. But overall, kind of cute. All right, let me show it to you here. So there's that basket that I made, and it's a large actually. It's probably too large of a basket for small stuff. This might actually be really cute to put large items. Maybe this goes into your sock drawer and you put a lot of socks in it somewhere else. I would maybe stabilize it for something this big. I probably should have done that for this larger one. But you know, you live and learn with these things. You were learning right along with me. I do like that it's really flat and can be folded up. Real simple. And it has that sort of staying power of denim, you know, like it's that super strong kind of thing. And I love the sort of, you get a different color inside for the lining. But it's clearly made out of a recycled piece of denim. Now, again, stabilizing this might have been a lot better of a choice, and probably something I'll try the next time. And I hope you'll try it with me. But until next time, folks, stay crafty. Bye for now. All right, well now I need to make 4 more of these because I have a lot of socks.